And we're live, man. Kenny Ken in the building. We saying, my guy, you're right.
Yeah, I'm all good, man. It's a big day today.
Why is that? Oh gosh, sorry, Kenny, I pressed the wrong button. What was you saying?
Because I'll be going to the Eubank versus Ben fight. So Chris Eubank Jr. versus Ben. I was at the weigh-in yesterday. I got to talk to Chris.
Weigh-in, isn't it?
Yeah, the weigh-in was at the Islington Design Centre in Upper Street. So right next to the Hilton Hotel, you got the Islington Design Centre. They're all part of the same sort of conglomerates. So I just walked in, unopposed. People just usher me in, get to the front. So I got to sit next to in the press corps. I saw Jordan.
Kenny's gone corporate, man.
No, I saw Jordan Jarrett Bryan. I think you know him.
I big him up.
Yeah, and I got talking to a few boxers. I spoke to Ben Whittaker, congratulated him on his performance last week. I spoke to Nick Blackwell, who had the injury when he fought Chris Eubank Jr. I spoke to quite a few boxers, but Chris Eubank Jr., when he was on the scales, he looked really drained. But when I spoke to him, I said, "Look, I've got you at 8 rounds." He said, "No, I want to do it a lot quicker." And then I spoke to his trainer. Yeah, so I had a conversation with his trainer as well, and his trainer was a bit more cautious, saying it'll come when it comes. So it was a great time. I work in Islington Council anyway, so just around the corner. As soon as I heard it was the Business Design Centre, it was a case of, should I do it? Should I not? And I thought, why not?
Why not? It's right there.
Either that or going to the gym. But it was a great evening, great, hour and a half. Even when they asked people to leave, I made sure I outstayed my welcome.
Kenny's going corporate, man. You're going to see him on TalkSport and that now, man.
No, I don't feel I can blag them. Boxing is much more easier.
And now that you mentioned it, how do you think the fight's gonna go? Who do you think's the favourite, man? I'll be watching it tonight. I've got Conor Ben.
No, I think Chris Eubank Jr. in terms of experience, he's fought the better fight. He's fought in world title fights as well. He's got the better boxing skills. He's bigger. One thing about him is that if he gets his accuracy up to date, then it should be a long night for Conor Ben. But one thing Conor Ben's going to do is going to sort of get up close, try to get his work off. If you've got a fighter that's trying to close down a distance, you have to hit him and make sure he's in, and make sure he respects you. So it's the jab is the sort of range hitter, and then he's got to hit him with right hands, but it's got to be accurate.
What do you think of the mind games going into it? Like, because there's been a lot, man. There's been eggs thrown. There's been dads not speaking to sons. There's been a lot. They've really sold it, if I'm honest. Maybe oversold it.
Well, the fact that they've sold it's the name. The fight was sold in its name. Then obviously you got the first fight was was postponed or was cancelled because Conor Ben failed 2 drug tests. So that's the other sort of side story. Then you got the side story of the promoters. Eddie Hearn's an established promoter. Ben Shalom's just a new of the block. He used to work with Sky Sports and DAZN are broadcasting the fight per pay-per-view. So that gives it all combination. And obviously the dads as well. And then obviously the Chris Eubank Seniors refused to be part of the camp or just, support his son. And he's been very critical of his son and the fight. So it's got all the sort of things that you associate with a storyline in the WWE.
Exactly. Like it's had everything. Like, and I think to be honest, I know many people are kind of like, he's done like Conor Ben's done too much, Eubanks has done too much. I actually like it. I like the shenanigans. Just make sure once that ring goes, both of you live up to that expectation, man. So hopefully it's a decent fight. Unfortunately, because I actually would love to just speak about boxing, we got to speak about Arsenal. The first thing I want to get is let me have all your thoughts on the 2-2 draw against Crystal Palace, man. I spoke to Dan. Dan said, which obviously I weren't at the game. Dan said something very interesting. He's like, he spoke about the players and whatnot, but he said the fans weren't exactly up for it in the stadium, and it felt like everybody's eyes and minds were on Tuesday and it coming. So what's your thoughts with the game?
Look, I think the situation is that we've prepared ourselves for the fact that Liverpool are going to win the title. We've accepted it. And what we have now is a beautiful distraction, which is the Champions League. So, there's a lot of fan apathy in terms of fans putting their tickets in ticket exchange. They did that against Fulham and Brentford, and they've done it in this game as well. and that's the thing with football, is the apathy of the fans. But what I say to the fans is that come quarter past, half past 6 on Sunday tomorrow, it will hurt, because you prepare yourself for
You're
this.
sinking.
You will prepare yourself for the possibility and know it's going to happen. But when it finally happens, that's when the pain's going to be very hard, because let's not kid ourselves. In terms of Arsenal, the main objective was to win the league, because we didn't win the last 2 seasons. So the Champions League was never really on our horizon. But because we've been playing well in the Champions League and we've got ourselves into the semi-finals, that's now become the alpha and omega. But you think if we're about a couple of points beyond Liverpool, I think the games would have had more intensity. Brentford would have had
They should do anyways.
But that doesn't always translate. It translates to players as well. He's played a strong side because he wants Liverpool to sort of work hard to win the league. He wants Liverpool to win it, to win it, properly, but not needing a point, but winning it at Anfield. And I think that's what Mikel Arteta wants to do. But at the end of the day, you can take the horse to the well. The hell doesn't mean it's going to drink. And
exactly.
What we saw was low levels of intensity from our players, particularly the players who normally play. I don't think Odegaard played with the same sort of intensity. Don't think he was that brilliant. I certainly don't think Martinelli played with the same sort of intensity. And you could probably say Declan as well didn't play with the same sort of intensity that we know we're going to see next week. So it's one of those things where psychologically the players have switched off from the league. They've accepted it a long time ago. I think they knew probably in December.
They're not idiots. They're not living under a rock. They can see what we see.
It was going to be a hard slog to win the league. And then when we lost against West Ham, effectively, that's when the title's been over. And I think it's going to take the Arsenal fans
You're kind, Kenny, man. I think it was done before that.
That's the thing. It's going to take us a long time to get over it. But as I said on podcasts, I've said to my wife and people and my brother, we are where we should be. We that's about correct for the performances we displayed this season. The table don't lie. That's the most important statistic.
Exactly.
People can talk about players running miles. People can talk about all the other stuff, but the most important stat is for me the league, the performances, and where we are on the table, and we are where we deserve to be. I don't think Arsenal fans should have any complaints. They can bring up whatever they want. They can talk about injuries. They can talk about VAR, talk about suspensions. But the fact is that in the big moments, Arsenal never turned up. When Liverpool when Liverpool didn't play the Merseyside derby in December the 7th,
he's done nothing to close that gap and put real pressure on them.
And then the week afterwards, Liverpool were down a goal at Fulham. They were down to 10 men, 2-1 down. Meanwhile, at the Emirates, we had Everton at home, and we drew 0-0. That is another reason why we don't deserve to win the league. And we did that with our strongest team. So you can't just cite injuries then. And his injuries only can become relevant in January, but that was when the title was long gone.
6 months or so, football's already been played by the time that is. But you know how it is, Kenny, man. People are gonna write whatever narrative.
Title race, DJ. Never been a title race.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even. Yeah, I'm with you. That's one thing we agree on. Like, I think it's very rich to put Arsenal in a title race. That doesn't negate from the fact that we should be winning this title. We didn't make a meal of it, but we've never really been on it. We haven't really been leading. I personally have not been happy. Yeah, there's been moments, mashing up Man City. What you said about the Champions League. There's been some good games, but generally, it feels like from the beginning of the season, what was it, Wolves? We've just been chugging along, really and truly, just chugging along. And then we made it even more difficult for ourselves. And I genuinely feel, not that I feel Liverpool are looking at us week in, week out, but they probably can't believe their luck in that they're playing, quote unquote, brilliantly in comparison to the other teams because they're top. And Arsenal are just fading away. At no point have they had to go, oh, you know what, Arsenal are playing, we've got X, Y, Z, we might have to win at Anfield. Like, in the ideal world, at the very minimum, we go into that game at Anfield a couple of weeks from now. Like, yeah, whoever wins this wins the title, but it's horrible. And one thing that you said, go on, Kenny.
He was set up for that. That's the thing. It was, when you looked at the fixtures and you let's be honest, in June last year, when the fixture list was, like I said, produced, and we saw the fixture list, we would have looked at that game at Anfield and made the 10th, obviously, no, made the 11th. We would have looked at it and thought, you know what? That's probably a game where we have to win, because if we lose that, Man City will take a charge into title race. We didn't really talk about Liverpool, but when Liverpool started on, their ascension up the table, and we were in a situation where we were struggling, but we all thought, the second half of the season where we're going to be strong, we thought, right, that's the game, because obviously early doors we knew Man City were not going to, mount a title challenge or losing too many games. But we thought what Liverpool had done is that their best players have turned up. They haven't really had to carry players. I suppose they had to carry on Robertson, and they've kind of rotated with Tsimikas, but Salah's turned up. Van Dijk has been impeccable. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, when he plays, he's been fantastic. You say he can't defend, but Liverpool Football Club and a big teams are always on the attack anyway. So you're going to see them more of his strengths, his attributes, which is the passing, the dead ball situations.
He's actually
good. He's got an eye for goal as well. So that's where you're going to see his strengths. And Liverpool being fantastic this season. They have played like champions. People say, they're not that great and they've been lucky. Well, they went to Man City and won comfortably. Something we couldn't do. They managed to, give us a game at the Emirates. They look pretty steady in that sort of performances. And they every time they got a goal down, they come back. The only blemish was obviously Forest at home and Fulham, where they left it too late. So
I think one defeat this season, if I can remember correctly. Like, you can't hate on Liverpool.
But Arsenal fans are saying that no one cares that Liverpool have won the league, that everyone's more interested in the Champions League and the games involving Tottenham United. But I think people on social media need to sort of stop confusing their importance with the fact that they're always on it, because younger people take notice of it. People on social media only cover under 1% of their fan base of all the football clubs. You've been to games. Some of these people probably don't even know who you are. Some do, but majority don't know who you are.
Exactly.
I was at Ipswich Way last week. There's a few people came up to me and said, "Oh yeah, watch your stuff with Lee Gunner." The majority of them got about their business, because at the end of the day, they just go to watch football. If they're going to talk about, they'll do it in their WhatsApp groups, or they do it in a pub after the match or before the game. They're not going to go on social media or go on a podcast. So I say it once 30,000 times, all this sort of rivalry where you've got fans saying, Spurs is not our biggest rivals in Man United. Well, it's not the real fans are saying that. It's people on social media. Again, you get about so many followers on social media, get so many subscribers, but you're just a small percentage.
It's a drop in the ocean, essentially.
Our rivals are still Tottenham Hotspur from a historical point of view. But again, that's social media for you. It's a new media. It's a young person's vehicle. And when you're young, you think you're to be on land everything.
And it's copium more than anything, because you clearly care. Like, you clearly care. I mean, the goalposts always move. It's like us with the Invincibles. Oh, they had 12 draws. Who cares? And that's what I believe is the stage Arsenal's at. We just need to get over the line, because people can say whatever they want, but who cares? It's set in history. Liverpool have done their thing. Like, there's no way people can talk nonsense about Liverpool. At the end of the day, they're top. I'm not one of these fans. I know everything's been said about, for example, the Guard of Honor, like, I don't want to give them one. I believe in sport. You should. Regardless of what you feel about Liverpool or your own football club, they were the best men across the season. They deserve their flowers. We need to go back to the drawing board.
150%. They deserve their Guard of Honor. Any team that wins
sport's about.
The hardest competition to win in any form of football is your championship. As much as I have arguments with, or discussions, because I don't really have arguments, I have discussions. And it's funny, very funny you say that. Last week in the bowels of Portman Road, I spoke to two guys, two old school fans. One's on Twitter, but he can just about turn his computer on. But he goes home and away. And then my mate Roger views things, and he's always telling me off for my views on Arteta. And I said to them, the most important thing in football is to win the league. It's more important than Champions League, because you're the best.
I don't know.
Games, you go over 38 games, there's no dispute whether you're the best. And they said to me, I want the Champions League. Because
I'm with them.
and the bullet point reasons they gave was, one, they never see they're getting on and they want to see it before their lifetime. Good point. Second point is that they're fed up of getting stick from Chelsea fans, Liverpool fans, Nottingham Forest
Champions
fans,
of Europe, you'll never sing that. I'm tired of hearing that chant as well.
So again, I get where their point is, and I think what's happened is that it's going to be a very good experience. But the question is, if we don't win the Champions League, then obviously we're going to revisit how we done the league. And so the question is, does the Champions League paper over one of the biggest cracks in football, our season? The fact that we scored 13 draws, none of those games were goal up, and we managed to not see it through. So that's the thing. Football's a funny old game where, whether you like it or not, and some people ain't going to like it, if we don't win the Champions League, people are going to forget about our wonderful campaign. They're going to forget about Madrid. They're going to forget about PSV, all those sort of games. They're even going to forget about us smashing Man City. They're going to say...
The young players, yeah.
They're going to say, Man City weren't at their best. And you
They're already saying that about Madrid. It's not the greatest Madrid side.
Well, that's the thing with football. You know, Mikel Arteta badly needs to win this Champions League more than anything, because what will happen is that, one, it's good for him. One, his place in Arsenal folklore is undisputed. Because Arsenal never won a Champions League, and because it's the hardest cup competition to win.
Facts.
He is going to get his flowers. He is going to get his stage. He's going to get a bust, in the bowels of the Emirates. He might even get a statue if he asks nicely. But what I'd say, if Mikel Arteta's getting statues, make sure you have one for George Graham. Make sure George Graham gets one, because George Graham made this possible. I think George Graham's place in Arsenal history shouldn't be one for a dispute. It shouldn't be one up for debate. The fact that our three greatest managers at Arsenal are Arsene Wenger, Herbert Chapman, and George Graham. Yet two of them got statues, one hasn't. It's becoming more and more bizarre. And the excuses not to give George Graham statues, unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
We manage them.
RM, I'm not minimising it. I'm just saying as it is. It does paper over the cracks. Because at the end of the day, the goal was to win the Premiership. And I think you need to admit to yourself that at the beginning of August, it was Operation Win the Premiership. It wasn't Operation Win the Champions League. The Champions League would have been nice, but that's how football is, RM. Whether you like it or not, if we don't win the Champions League, people are going to revisit this season. That's because at the end of the day, the goal is to deliver silverware, especially a team that hasn't won anything for 5 years, come up to 6 years. So I don't make the rules up. This isn't my opinion. I'm just going to go by observation. There's going to be people who don't agree with what I said, but the fact is, you're right. The goal is to win major trophies, and you're right. But the fact is, ask yourself honestly.
It's the best policy.
When we kicked off on the 17th of August against Wolves, what was your ambition? What did you want to win more than anything else? Could you see us in the Champions League final? Were you one of those people who were saying that if Mikel Arteta doesn't win the league, then we need to look at it again? I'm not saying you did, but I don't believe right now that the Champions League was your goal when we kicked off on the 17th of August.
I don't think anything's lying there. It couldn't have been your goal. We want to put our best foot forward, but the tangible goal was the Premier League. That was the one where, we see what we could do in the champs, which we hope it continues. But the Prem, we finished a point or two behind City last season. That was the goal, to go one better. We never done it. Now, I think you're conflating what Kenny's saying, in a sense of, obviously, if we win the Champions League, it paints a good narrative, which it should. We won the Champions League with all the injuries and all that kind of stuff that fans talk about. We won the Champions League. It's groundbreaking. It's amazing. But what he's clearly saying is, people are not necessarily going to care or even speak about what's in the title. And Kenny said about 13 draws and things of that. If we don't win the Champions League, then it's okay, cool. You beat Real Madrid. You got to the semi-finals. Great. but it's still not silverware. The Premier League is still not silverware. Bearing in mind, we've got to 2 semi-finals. You know, the Newcastle one, still not silverware. The FA Cup, obviously, I think that wasn't even the quarters. That was very early against Man United.
Well,
we went out.
It's silverware. Once again, we went out the first round against a Man United side that
10 men.
Well, they wanted it more than us. They're the ones who had all the adversity. They had a player. Who had a player down.
And we had a penalty in normal time, and obviously once it goes to normal penalties,
RM says we want to win major trophies. Of course, you want to win major trophies, and I hear what you're saying. But one thing I would say, you got a good point there. If we had the FA Cup and the league, and we won that, but still finished 13 points behind Liverpool, of course I'd be happy because I'd take a trophy. But there's a lot of people who say that cup competitions are inferior to the league. So
I don't know how they could do it. How they could do that. I think Arteta winning the Champions is a bigger achievement.
But what I am saying is that there's been a lot of frustration this season with how we played, and that we need the Champions League more than anything else because
how we played, the injuries, the draws, all of these things.
If we do
win the Champions, it's calm.
If we do win the Champions League, we will forget about how badly we played in the league. So
we'll forget about the summer transfer window. We'll forget about January where we did nothing. That is quote unquote papering over.
What does that equate to then? That equates to if you forget about all the things that went wrong this season because you've won a massive competition. That is, in essence, papering over the cracks, isn't it?
And I don't know how you could disagree with that. To be fair,
that's papering over the cracks. Because the fact is, we haven't had a good season in the league. We lost 3 times, but the draws have just been
killed us, man.
May as well been defeats.
Yeah, especially the ones from winning positions killed us, man. Absolutely, the draws have killed us, and I hear it because I wouldn't say it's commendable, but we are getting drawn into ironically a top 4 battle, but I'll give the club that credit. We've stayed second. I do think many teams with all the contexts that we would have had might have fallen off. But at the end of the day, second doesn't really mean much because you don't get anything in history. And also, for me, Kenny, we've spoken about it. It goes back to the summer. It goes back to January. It goes back to game management and away from recruitment, just taking things to the next level. Like draws are one thing. Even more frustrating with the draws is the ones from winning positions. And I do think the papering over the crack.
We've been in front 9 times and we haven't managed to see it through.
And that's unacceptable for what these lot have shown me. That is unacceptable. Like, why is that happening? There's been different games with different contexts. Of course, I think we can see the equalizer when we had 10 men against City. There's been a couple of those. But then you've also got Aston Villa. You've got Fulham. You've got Crystal Palace. You've got Brentford. Silly results. Now that happens across the season, but 13, there's something to look into.
Yeah, and we're actually lucky against Crystal Palace, where Crystal Palace, they brought the big guns on when they sensed that we were not at it. And that was when they were like, they were 2-1 down. They brought on Mateta and Ismail Sarr. They brought a lot of energy and pace into that side.
Them not missed a couple cities as well.
And defence and fullbacks began to struggle with both of them. So the way I look at it right now is that's how things were. We done it. We were lucky we actually held on. Brentford as well, Mr. Truth as well. When they equalised, when they got the equaliser from Johan Wizza,
why do you think it keeps happening in the second half as well, Kenny, man? The draws, because that's when it seems to happen.
Madness. No, because the way we play. The reason why it happens is because teams at the Emirates play a low block. They play low mid block, and what they do is that they basically gamble. They gamble in the first half an hour, and pray said, "Look, as long as we don't go down in the last half an hour." In the first half an hour, we'll come into it slowly comes with it. And then when Arsenal's tired because they're going to keep on coming at us, that's when I think teams begin to go for it. When they think, well, they're a bit tired. For instance, you look at down our left-hand side, the opposition's right-hand side, because we're trying to win the game, Miles Lewis-Skelly leaves his position. because he leaves his position. There's a lot of space.
He's got to gamble. Obviously, we need players higher up the field.
Opposition's right hand side, and then that's what happens when they create chances. It happens. You look at West Ham. Obviously, West Ham 1-0 up, but one of the reasons why Marjorie Skelly got sent off is because he lost concentration with West Ham player. The player got in front of him, and the only option he had to do was kudos. Obviously, the only thing he had to do was foul him, take one for the team, and take his L. And that's the situation. We have to learn two things: how to break the mid block.
Oh, we've been needing to learn that for about 2 years.
But the reason why we don't break the mid block is because we don't move the ball quickly enough.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. We're scared of taking risks. We're scared of a through ball. Everything has to be simple. Give the ball, boom. No one wants to cross the ball nowadays because they're scared of getting done on the overloads. That's one of the reasons why Arsenal's so difficult to break down and difficult to overload, because what we do is we keep the ball, we pass, and then we get into position. And then we double up on the opposition. So we frustrate the opposition, who in turn tries to frustrate us. And it's basically a chess game. Who gets tired first?
And you know what they say, Kenny, the hardest thing to do is to score goals, man. And that's where we struggle. I know we've got 100 in all comps. Just like last season, we had great statistics in terms of scoring goals, and the year before that. But that's probably where you need some individual brilliance. RM, I got love for you, my guy. I can't lie. I disagree with this heavily. The number of draws we've had this season is directly correlated to our attacking injury crisis. But our fans are Stevie Wonder when it comes to our injuries. I don't think anyone could be Stevie Wonder. Everybody knows about the injuries. Kenny said it. I've said it. I don't think for the 13 draws that is necessarily true. You look at, what was it, Fulham away, where we were dominating the first half or the large opening periods. They had one chance down the other end and bang. Yeah, obviously we scored in the second half and VAR did us that, but that had nothing to do with injuries. Aston Villa had nothing to do with injuries. Can we really blame Crystal Palace for injuries? And if that is one thing, even if it does come down to injuries, that is something we've spoken about, not just this year, but last year, in that we need a bigger squad. Our very own manager, Mikel Arteta, has said we've got a squad of 19. So if that is the case, we haven't prepared fairly. You know, the Premier League, around winter, ironically, it gets cold. We didn't buy enough jackets. And obviously you saw Saka, yada, all get injured. The one draw, I'd say the saddest draw for me, there was obviously some last minute equalizers. I don't really have energy for the team with City, but I'd say the most difficult draw to accept was two of them. For me, it would have been Aston Villa and it would have been Nottingham Forest, just because Nottingham Forest, we were licking our wounds. We kind of feeling sorry for ourselves. We were just trying to get through it. It was a nothing kind of game, and I never want to see my team get to that. I don't think you can just say without injuries, we probably don't have 13 draws, but we probably have a decent amount. Maybe half this, maybe a bit more, maybe double this. I don't know, but it's whatever gin and tonic you want to be able to sleep in it and accept this season. Because I just think it's an excuse, if I'm honest. We didn't do what we needed to do in the summer.
It works both ways. Let's not forget,
Exactly.
With injuries, we beat home. With less than full squad, we beat Real Madrid home and away in the Champions League. With
No Saka when we beat City 5-1 as well.
We've won big games without our big players. We beat Tottenham at home without our big players, so it can be done. It doesn't help, but we have come through adversity. The fact is, we just haven't been good enough. The better players haven't played well.
Exactly. And we have a centre mid playing centre forward. Who is that because of? That's because of what the club hasn't done. Like, we didn't have enough bodies. And big up Mourinho, it's nothing to do with him, but we're acting like this is like it's Disney Channel. If we're in a position where we have to do that again, because we did that with Kai, we're not doing enough. And regardless of whatever reason we want to shape it and whatnot, and you could be right, we could be wrong. We could be right, you could be wrong. Whatever way you shape it, it says 3 defeats, 13 draws. That's it. Like, we can debate it, why, but that's it. It's all about going to the next level. I do think some Arsenal fans, they get caught up in this whole, like, creating ideal scenarios. If this decision don't happen and that doesn't happen, then we're here, which is true. Maybe a lot of that's true. But at the end of the day, we can only deal with what's in front of us. Once upon a time, 12 draws would win you the league. In fact, you'd go unbeaten. Unfortunately, it can't do that now. And we've shot ourselves. Huh?
Invincibles?
Yeah, exactly. You can go invincible, but times have changed, bro. Like, and this is another thing. Like I said,
78 points. 78 points from 26 wins. and 12 points from 12 draws, 90 points. This, I hate what you're saying, but
Madness, isn't it?
The fact is that we're in a situation there where Man City has raised the stakes. And then with Liverpool's involvement, Arsenal had to be immaculate. Draws, you had to basically aim to get at least 95 points to win this league.
Arteta said 100. We need to target 100.
Yeah, because when you get 95 points, you're assuming that you're not just got City on your neck, you've got Liverpool on your neck. And I think next season, this has got to be the barometer. You can't drop points. You know, you have to aim for 100 points.
That's what Arteta said we're doing.
I assume that Man City are going to come back stronger. That Pep,
they definitely will.
It's going to be Pep's last season.
Getting his wife back as well. He's back now, man.
I think it's going to be Pep's last season, so he's going to go all out for the Champions League and the league. This is going to be the real test for Slot, where it's going to be his own team, and they need to, even though they're going to win the league at the counter, they need at least 5 players. They need to improve their centre forwards because they haven't been good enough. So they've got to improve in that respect. They haven't been able to keep them all fit as well. So he's going to need 5 signings. He's going to need left back cover. He's going to probably need a right back cover because we think Trent's going, and so he needs 5 players. We need at least five or six ourselves. So it's a case of who has the best start. It's like 100 meters. Who's going to have the best start? Who's going to get out of their lane the quickest? And then stay in that lane and sustain it till May next year. That's the goal next season. It's not even in dispute.
Do you remember how when at some point this season, I can't remember the period, but there was a point, where we weren't necessarily playing amazing, we weren't necessarily playing well. And one thing that I found very difficult to accept, some Arsenal fans were saying, we're saving ourselves for the second half of the season. And I said it at the time, I think that's very stupid. Do you think Mikel Arteta, all the players go into any game of any minute and think, oh yeah, I'm saving myself for the second half of the year, I'm not going to try? This is where every point matters, man. We're seeing it time and time again. And there's been different draws with different contexts. I would also say that you got this, what I call the silly draws, like the 2 against Brighton, where at the Emirates, I was there. Yes, the Declan Rice.
You were there. You coming out of the press box, weren't you?
Yeah, I saw you as well. You've not let me live that down, but yeah, I came out of the press. This guy, man, you never let me live that down. But...
Hey, look, what's funny, right? This is still on the subject of football. Where you're going, you've got to take what's on offer now. I've seen you on TalkSport. If they're offering you to come down and do you get in your car, you drive there,
get there.
Go.
Exactly. You got to seize the present moment.
Yeah, make an impression. Make sure they never forget who you are and carry on. And that's how it is now.
That's how football should be.
This is the right time for you to strike and make your mark. Because you don't make your mark, you're going to have the biggest regrets ever. And that's
actually bang on the money, because I feel in the last 3 years now, we've got nothing but regrets. Like the 2 Brighton games, for example. Yes, the red card, but I feel either side of whether we had 10 or 11 men, we could have won that game. I remember Saka and Havertz in that second half. You fast forward to the one at their place. Yeah, the Saliba penalty, but we could have wrapped that up in the first half. And I'm not saying that the refs don't mean anything, but you have to kill games before they kill you. We can
100%. 100%. If you watch the game at the Amex Stadium, you saw how we started in the first half. We didn't just score, but we were out running them.
All over them.
We're all over them. And I thought, you know what? This could be 3 or 4.
Exactly. But that's what we need to. When it looks like a 3-4 game, nil game, we need to make it that 9 times out of 10 next year.
And then something just happened in the second half that I didn't recognise us. I didn't recognise the tempo. The players weren't, and they got the penalty. And let's not forget, there's some precedents. We've been kind of subject to a few refereeing precedents. Like at West Ham, I've never seen a penalty being given for a punch, for a goalkeeper missing his punch and catching a player.
I love it, but I don't know what he's supposed to do.
Game last week, Arsenal got a penalty for the same thing. Arsenal ladies against Leon. Same thing, the goalkeeper misses the punch. And then we had the situation where a guy misses Hymes's header, headbutts the player, and it ends up in the back of the net. It ends up as a penalty. So at least we now know if you're a goalkeeper, try and catch the ball. So if you don't catch the ball,
and you're in trouble.
And you throw a punch and you miss, it's got a penalty.
You're in trouble. Big trouble.
If you're going out for a header, make sure you don't headbutt the player accidentally because it's going to be a penalty. You know what I mean?
It's true, but that's what I mean about controllables. Like, of course, I wish we lived in a world where there was no dodgy refereeing. And one thing that annoys me as an Arsenal fan, even though you know, Kenny, I'm not one that waffles about referees, is there is one rule, not one rule for us, but it's like, if you want to send off Declan Rice against Brighton, for example, great. If 2 yellow cards, it is what it is. But I better see that every week. It doesn't happen. So for me, I'm of the belief now, let's just control the controllables. If we were immaculate against Brighton and the ref is the reason I genuinely believe we didn't win the game, fair enough. But it's not against Brighton.
You know what?
Villa, etc.
And all the people talk about look, I've been saying it for time. I've been saying it for time. Referees have never been for Arsenal, and we're going back 1987 when George Graham came to
anyone that's played Sunday League knows. Even amateur football, don't leave it to the refs. Expect them to be rubbish.
Referees hate Arsenal. Let's not forget, under Arsene Wenger, we had the record amount of sending offs. I think it was in the 60s. We stopped counting when it was 60 sending offs under Arsene Wenger. And that was when we had our best team. And then after when we got Fabregas and we got the sort of like tiki-taka lot, referees weren't giving us fouls. And then we had the referees...
several leg breaks.
Yeah. Then when we got the 2 leg breaks, referee went, oh, no, we're letting teams go too far with Arsenal. And then you got the new one where Arsenal, Ben House and his shithousery and the other players in their shithousery and diving.
But then they told us we need to do that.
We Arsenal need to do that. And so referees have got their eye on Arsenal. You look at the set pieces. Do you know the team that scored the most set pieces this season?
It's us and Crystal Palace, isn't it?
Crystal Palace.
Well, yeah. It would be Crystal Palace now, yeah.
Remember, their goal was a set piece. And so was our first goal. So
what a goal from Eze.
Yeah, so they're 2 ahead of us when it comes to set pieces this season. 2 ahead.
It was on brand, man. And what a goal it was for Eze.
Yeah,
for me,
that's right. Debussy when he was pushed into the advertising.
Another one.
That was by Arnautovic, Stoke versus Arsenal.
Yeah. Didn't he break his shoulder or something? I'm sure he's got seriously injured with that. He wasn't the same again either.
Yeah, but mind you, Bayoin got his chance, didn't he?
And then took it, yeah. What a player I thought Bellerin was going to be until I don't know what happened to him, man. Probably the ACL, whatever he had. He's
got his injury. Another thing as well was that he relied a lot on his pace. And when he lost his pace and we lost just a little yard of the pace, he wasn't the same player.
Yeah, you ain't got pace, you ain't got football intelligence per se, you're not great defensively. It was always a ticking time bomb. I wonder where he is now. You can't be a bit.
When he was at his best, his pace was unbelievable. His pace was just...
I remember the game at the Emirates versus Liverpool. I think him, Ozil and Alexis scored. I think that's the best game I've seen from Bellerin in an Arsenal shirt, to be fair.
Yeah, and it was a lot of it's down to Bellerin's pace as well. But then again, you look at the players with like proper pace. I mean, Mark Overmars, look at him when he lost his pace. But when he had his pace, oh God.
Do you think that's a like it's a factor for Martinelli? Because he relies a hell of a lot on that.
100%. But if you noticed that Martinelli's got some lead in his pencils again, he's beginning to show his pace a bit. But I think, yes, if Martinelli loses a yard of pace, he's not the same player. In fact, when you talk about the reason why we didn't win the league, one of the reasons why we didn't win the league because he was one of the players that didn't play to the best of their ability. He was poor this season. Odegaard's been poor this season, albeit he had 2 months out of injury. And I'm going to say something controversial.
Go on, man. We love this.
Really want to meet me after this podcast. Declan Rice has been poor most of the season.
Come on, Ken.
No, let me finish. Declan Rice has been fantastic in the last two months. He's been out this world in the last 2 months. But if Declan Rice, right, had played those levels, what we've seen in the last 2 months, all the season, I think we would have been better this season. He hasn't played at his best this season.
I hear that. I think he
Thomas
was like
has,
6 out of 10
Thomas
first half of
has,
the year.
Thomas has, Gabriel has. I don't think Saliba's been at his best this
No,
season.
Saliba's for his own standards. Saliba's had a
I
poor
don't
season.
think he's been at his best. I think the players that have been at their best this season have been Thomas Partey, Yerin Timber, and the goalie. Although a couple of times now,
Lewis Kelly and Saka, surely.
Yeah, but Saka and Lewis Kelly. I'm going to talk about players who played all season.
I hear that.
So Thomas Partey been fantastic.
He's been quality and he's getting a new deal now, apparently.
Gabriel Magalhaes has been fantastic. The goalie's been fantastic. And Yerin Timber, the goalie's been fantastic. But all the other players, no way.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I think for me, Declan Rice has been 6 out of first half of the season. I think it was a 6 out of 10. Now he's been 20 million out of 10.
Yeah,
Partey's been ever present.
Can you imagine if Declan Rice performed just 1% more better and Odegaard gave another 2%? I don't think we'd be in a situation where we'd be 13 points behind Liverpool, where we'd be about where Liverpool only going to need a point to win the league.
Is that another thing then, Kenny?
There's a month to go after tomorrow. 4 weeks to be exact. 4 weeks to be exact. And they've won the
Newcastle, Liverpool.
We haven't taken it to the last day. People need to be honest. I'm not being critical. I'm just being factual. Declan Rice has been fantastic in the last couple of months. But if he played to that level and other players played to that level, I don't think we'd be into that position. I'm not going to lose any sleep by saying that because it's been facts. You know, last season players turned up, and that's why we got close to. We gave City a run for their money in the last couple of seasons, but the levels of standards of performance haven't been good enough.
Yeah, even that. Yeah, Aaron's right. Shout out Aaron. Like he came back from England poor form, which he never had a break, bit like Mourinho, and he had a broken toe. You got to allow Rice, Kenny, man. Allow him.
He's had a broken toe, but the fact is, and he has been tired. But the fact is, we have to go by the premise that if he's selected to play, and he albeit most of the games he's played for 90 minutes, then he's fit for those games. So we have to look at the performances. Because when you talk about extenuating circumstances where players got injury, you're basically carrying a player if he's not that fit. And the same thing with Odegaard. If you go by that premise, he's been injured.
I love Odegaard, but he's been woeful, man. Yeah, I do think he's carrying an injury and needs to have surgery. But at the end of the day, you're playing, so don't really help.
And he's brought back because we were struggling to break teams down, and he hasn't turned up. In fact, he hasn't. The things that he normally does that we like, pressing hasn't been there. He's getting completely knocked off the ball. The lack of strength.
Oh, like Crystal Palace.
And that seems to happen in every game. Even games we win against Real Madrid, especially the first leg, Camavinga overpowered him. You know what I mean?
I don't know where it is with
RM says add defensive midfield numbers a lot. No, they're not. They're not. Saliba has been all right, but he hasn't been at his best. You know,
had a lot more brain farts this season. I feel collectively throughout the side than last year.
Look at the amount of goals we conceded as well. How many clean? We're not even the amount of clean sheets that we've been used to last season has been less.
We haven't had back-to-back clean sheets since August.
Yeah, we've conceded. We now conceded more goals than Liverpool have. It's something that we always associate ourselves in midfield. Thomas Partey is the only one who's been consistent. Odegaard hasn't played well. Declan Rice hasn't been his best, albeit through the rigours of Germany last year. He hasn't been at his best. He's only the last couple of seasons, a couple of months where he's been at his best. We have to be honest with this. Don't just blame the attack. Don't get blame the attack. It's collective. Yeah, we haven't had the attack, but the fact is that everyone says striker. But a couple of seasons ago, and last season as well, we had a lot of players who were getting in double figures. I exaggerate a bit, but we had 3 or 4 players in double figures. That was enough to challenge for the last 2 years. The goals have dried up. Martinelli.
We're still relying on the select few.
Kai Havertz, despite what you say about Kai Havertz, he scored 9 goals, but he's been injured since January.
He's still our top goal scorer, which is mad.
I'm not saying he's going to hit 15 goals or 16 goals, but fact of the matter is he was in 9 goals before he got injured. These are just facts. So where we've gone wrong is the collective. You can't be good in all areas and still be 13 points, 12 points behind Liverpool. You can't be good in all. You can't have a strong midfield and have a strong defence if you conceded the amount of goals that we conceded. And most importantly,
we haven't evolved, man.
When you've been in the lead, you conceded late goals where you dropped leads 9 times. That means players haven't been at their best.
Football's decided at both ends. If Kai Havertz is our top goal scorer with 9 goals, we haven't kept back-to-back clean sheets since August. We might be a good side, but it's not about being good. We need to be great. And I genuinely don't feel we are. I don't care what statistics tell me. I don't think we're better defensively than we was last year. And I definitely don't think we're as good as we were in an attacking sense the year before last year. Like we have to develop the system. Like Kenny said at the beginning of this, we moved the ball slow. Now you could argue better players, manner and more form, the ball's going to get moved more. But I only mention what Kenny said there because 1, I agree with it. And 2, I think a lot of fans are naive. If you just assume that we sign a striker and a left winger because that's 2 areas people want, right? And you've got Saka, we're attacking, we're scoring 100 goals, you're sadly mistaken. You know, if you buy something from IKEA, the best bed in the world, someone's got to put it together. And I think there's a lot Arteta's got to arrest from a coaching aspect. You know, next season, we're going to head into a 4th year now of fighting for a title. Give or take, the vast majority of these players have been together for 2 to 4 years. So it doesn't surprise me now that players that were once on the first names on the team sheet need to be moved on. Certain things that we were great at that teams had no answers for, they're getting answers. There's a lot we have to do. And we said it last year, we probably said it the year before, and we'll probably say it the year after. But it feels like this is the most important summer or transfer window that Arsenal have had in a long time. I'll probably be saying that next year, but that's genuinely how I feel in terms of ingoings, in terms of outgoings. Bert is in here now. I hope
you know what, you're 100% right. The reason why I say you're 100% right is because we have to be honest. If we put our economics heads on and our business heads on, with the amount of money we spent last in 2023, summer 2023, it was always this last summer's transfer voyage. It was always going to be the case where you had to sell more rather than buy.
It weren't making enough sense for the Cronkies.
I could see it from a mile away, and I'm sure if fans say they couldn't see it from a mile away, then they must have been on some sort of different trajectory than anyone else. Football clubs don't spend big every summer, don't get players out.
It wouldn't make sense.
And the clubs that do that struggle. Man United are spent big, never got the players out. Look at them now. You can't run a business like that. Arsenal next season of
facts
got rid of some fringe players, but it's not enough. There's still more players that we need to, move on. We may even need to move on a starter this season.
You reckon?
Why not? Well, if you talk about the numbers, you guys want telephone numbers, right? You want us to spend mobile phone numbers. Not telephone numbers. You want to spend mobile phone numbers. Well, if you want us to spend mobile phone numbers, then you've got to move players on. Because at the end of the day, it's not enough to move on a player who's a fringe player who you probably have to give away. Just because you give away 4 or 5 fringe players, it's not going to balance the books. I'm sorry, but that's the situation. But if you get rid of a player that a team wants, and that player is a first teamer of sorts or just a first teamer, then that will balance the books. In order that you do get your players you need, like your Corezes, your Zubimendis or your Isaacs or your
Pires,
whoever you want your Sesco's, you can't get these big names in without making sacrifices. It doesn't make any economic sense. And if someone who did economics at GCSE can say it, but hasn't touched economics since then surely the money men at Arsenal are saying the same sort of things.
Billionaires and millionaires and all them guys, yeah.
And that's the thing. You don't do what Man United do. Buy. Don't get people out, and then all of a sudden wonder why they're under like I said
put shit players on big contracts. That's a poor business move in United. They're doing that. That's why Ineos are flushing it out.
Yeah,
and
why do you think
dinner lazies are losing their jobs
to PSR? Because of their stupidity in buying big players and not moving people on.
Facts. But then who gets moved on? Because I don't want this to be the case. But I would reckon it'd be one of, to humor what you said, it would have to be one of the centre halves. You know, Saliba not having the best of games of recent, but the market's there, contract business as well. I don't know how true those rumours were, but Gabriel Magalhaes, 100 million from Saudi. I don't think we're moving on Odegaard, or Arteta's not moving on Odegaard. You could make a case of Martinelli. And I wanted to say, unpopular opinion, I think Martinelli would be a better fit for Liverpool than Arsenal, as much as I love him. Martinelli. We're not trying to sell Saka. Obviously, we're not trying to sell Declan Rice.
Well, Saka's unsellable for two reasons.
Unsellable. So it's like, who would we sell? It would be one of the centre halves for me.
Yeah, but you know why Saka's unsellable? And I'm not talking about footballing reasons, because that's going to bore everyone to tears. That's just stating the obvious. He's unsellable because he's the face of the football club.
What franchise player, as they say?
He's a franchise
footballer. As well.
The simple reason is that you see Bukayo Saka, that lovely little boyish face, all over the Emirates, all over the merchandise. You ain't giving away. You ain't selling him.
Look at the love he got versus Fulham. And I weren't at Real Madrid, but I could only imagine Arsenal, Real Madrid at the Emirates, how it was for Saka as well.
And that's the situation. He is a player that's unsellable. He's the only player at the club that is not for sale. Everyone else probably is, and Declan as well. There, not one because of his performances, but then Declan, £105 million. The fact that he's in England international, some argue he could be a future England captain. He's not for sale. Again, he's good for business. That's the only two players that I think that they're indispensable. Everyone else,
I'd love to throw Saliba into that.
You say Saliba is another one that I think is indispensable because of the fact that a lot of people feel that, despite the fact that Gabriel's been our best performing defender for the last 3 years, Saliba is a better footballer.
He's mustard, man.
He probably will be world class further down.
You don't reckon he's world class already?
Still long. Well, he has to win things. Yeah, it's true.
Winning affects stuff. Because would you say Saka's not world class?
No. All right, let me rephrase that. If you talk about the greatest Arsenal players, very few players from the Emirates era are going to fall into that category. Now, if this team,
we're not winning stuff,
despite the fact that people may say the Champions League, like I said, overshines our poor league performance. If we win a Champions League, these players have got an opportunity to now be cast aside, be cast into the heroes, legendary status, world-class status.
Yeah, right? Yeah. You go down the boat. You won Champions League.
Partnership is Adams and Bolds. This team wins the Champions League. Saliba, we talks about there. And it'd be not in dispute. So would
to be fair, he says that though. He says I need to win Saka.
And even so would Saka, and so would Declan Rice. I don't make the rules up, mate. But I'm sorry.
Yeah, when you put it like that.
I'm sorry. None of the players from the Emirates era deserve to be seen as Arsenal legends. They don't deserve it.
No. I know, I'm not doing the legends thing, but world class. I think
success, and we're talking. That's the thing, because you've got to remember the players that we saw under George Graham, and the players we saw under Arsene Wenger. And of course, you go back to Liam Brady. The four greatest players at Arsenal for me are, in no particular order, Liam Brady, Dennis Bergkamp, Thierry Henry, and Robert Pires. After that, that's my four greatest ever Arsenal players.
No, Tony Adams.
Robert Pires, Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, and Liam Brady. Obviously, where's Vieira?
Where's Tony Adams? Where's Vieira? There's so many missing.
I don't think you would. Yeah, but in terms of like the best players I've ever seen, they're there.
Yeah, but football's biased towards attackers anyway.
The biggest legend at Arsenal Football Club is Tony Adams. The biggest legend and the most important figure at Arsenal Football Club is Tony Adams. He is. Tony Adams is Mr. Arsenal. But the best players I've ever seen are Liam Brady, Robert Pires, Dennis Bergkamp, and Thierry Henry.
I mean, it's quite the list.
I think Robert Pires is one of the most underrated players I've ever seen. Robert Pires in 2002 was the best player on the planet before.
One of my favourite Arsenal players. To be fair,
he came back and was still one of the best players on the planet.
Used to get targeted a lot in games as well.
In 2000, Robert Pires is amongst the best players in Europe.
But people forget these things. I always think people forget how good Perez was. People forget how good Sol Campbell was.
Is levels above Mark Overmars.
Say that again.
Robert Pires is levels above Mark Overmars. Robert Pires has won a double when he's won the Invincibles.
Yeah, but you're doing the trophy thing. Like, I'm looking at both. Probably is.
Has only won the double.
Yeah, but you're doing the trophy thing. If we just throw them both for football and we're just playing the game down the park, like I don't know which one's better.
Football, Robert Pires, Overmars was fantastic. He was direct,
tough,
and the speed was like
just gone like flash.
Pires was one of the most intelligent players. You think about down our left-hand side, Rob Pires, Henry, and Ashley Cole. Tell me you don't miss that.
Yeah, I do miss it. Perez in particular, because he was just different.
Let me tell you about Thierry Henry. Tell me that when Thierry Henry played, you felt we were going to win every game because he was on the pitch.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. He had that aura. He had the ability. 100%.
When you talk about Rob Pires, his goal against Aston Villa, talk about that. Let's talk about his goal at Anfield.
Yeah. The only thing Perez has ever done poorly is when he tried to square the penalty. Like, that's the only foolishness he's ever done.
Let's talk about Liam Brady. That goal against
I wish I got to see him. I only get to see him on YouTube. Baller, man.
Let's talk about Dennis Bergkamp, the Iceman.
Baller.
That season in 97-98. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I hear you. No, I hear you. But it can't always be a trophy thing to say guys are world class or whatever.
No. It wasn't the trophies. It was the performances and the trophies. The trophies were just the icing on the cake. But Robert Pires is one of the most underrated players that we ever had, and he should be number 4 in the sort of the legends of the football club, the best players we've ever seen. We didn't. Arsene Wenger taking off Robert Pires in Paris.
I knew you was going to mention that. I was hoping you wouldn't. You know.
Well, he took him off because simple reasons that Robert Pires was not at his best in the
and his work rate shit. So if you got 10 men, it's a myth.
And another thing as well, Hleb kept the ball better, and Lundberg was more mobile.
Yeah, so he put more of a shift in.
I hope Saka does eclipse Pires. I really hope Saka does eclipse Pires.
It's a big shout. It's a big shout.
I don't think he will, but I hope he does.
I'll back him to you. It'd be nice. To be fair, Perez said Doku is better than Saka. He's retracted his statement, but he said Doku was better than Saka. I don't know what he was.
Let me tell you something now. Rob Pires, oh my God. Just I know this is not. Alexis Sanchez is nowhere near Robert Pires. Wash your mouth out with soap and water. Robert Pires is levels above Alexis Sanchez. How dare you? How dare you?
You would have swapped Pires if we did an event.
Kick him out of the chat. Block him from the chat for saying that. Get out of here.
You would have Alexis ahead of Pires.
He's nowhere near Robert Pires. Alexis Sanchez is not on Robert Pires' level. Stop this.
If I remove my bias, I can't lie, Kenny. I think it's close still. Because I think he will sleep on Alexis.
You're having a laugh. Close.
Because I'm thinking about Alexis' whole career, what I've seen at Barca, what he did at Arsenal. Because to be fair,
he wasn't a starter at Barca. He was mostly
but he was still lit.
Barca.
But Alexis was playing with some shit players, bro.
Yeah,
look who Perez was with.
And
it did make his life easier.
There it is. Because
I'm just being there.
People going by the most recent memories of Arsenal, which happens to be at the Emirates. And the reason why they're going for the most recent memories is that Alexis Sanchez and Mesut Ozil were big fishes in small ponds.
True. I can't lie. I think Alexis is one of the best players I've seen play for this.
It's not bias. It's not bias.
It might be.
Rob
It
Perez
might
is
be.
a
It
better
might be. It
footballer.
might be.
Rob Perez is
It
a
might
better
be.
player. It's not bias. Alexis Sanchez was a big fish in a small pond. Alexis Sanchez would not have got in our teams ahead of Robert Perez. It's not happening.
I don't
It's not
know,
happening.
man. I
It's
don't
not
know.
happening.
I don't know. I
It's
don't
not
know. I
happening.
hope not, because Perez is my guy. But I don't
Doesn't have
know,
to be
man.
a
I
guy.
don't
It's
know.
not
Alexis
happening.
was cold, man. I think does Eden Hazard get in ahead of Perez?
I can't imagine Alexis Sanchez on that left-hand side with Ashley Cole and Thierry Henry, but I can only see Robert Perez.
Yeah, but it would cook because Alexis is gonna do the going backwards. He's gonna score goals.
Perez
is a better player
elite,
for me,
mate.
but am I being biased?
Perez is elite, mate. He's one of the 4 best players I've ever seen at the Emirates.
He's a baller. He's a baller. He's a baller. He's a baller. Yeah,
Alexis
but you're biased
Sanchez,
towards the more champagne kind of footballers.
That's it, the Emirates era. But I'm talking about Arsenal era. Robert Perez unfortunately didn't get playing the Emirates.
Sad, isn't it? Yeah.
He went to did he go to Villarreal?
Yeah, he did.
I'm
sure he did. Yeah, he made up his mind as well. He said, "I'm cutting." Like when he came off in Paris, he said, "I'm cutting," in it. He was speaking about it again the other day. Perez was quality. He could go inside. He could take you down the outside. You know, the only thing with him was his work rate. He had the technical abilities. Scored some love. He's a baller. Like Perez is Perez. But I just don't know. If I remove my fanfare and my love for it, and you should give me a prime Perez, a prime Alexis Sanchez.
Don't, yeah, but you know that I've in the chat. I'm one of those people who doesn't have a high regard for a certain centre forward because I think there was other centre forwards that are better than him. In fact, I'll put my chest out because I actually spoke to a couple of Arsenal fans at the weigh-in yesterday, and I said I'm not going to repeat it, but you know where we're going with this. You talked about. I said that 2 Arsenal forwards are better than an Arsenal forward that everyone lionises, and they're definitely better footballers than him. And I'm not going to. Let's just say the older person agreed with me. The younger person said we got to talk about this again. And then on Wednesday, I spoke to another younger bloke, and he said, "Are you sure? Are you sure that those two that one of them are better than the other one?" And I said, "Go back and think about it. Think about 2007, 2008, and how that, and think about when that guy was on it. He was as good as, not better than Didier Drogba when he pulled his up.
Let them know again, Kenny, man. Because I know some people probably
that's not being play hating against them. I always thought that the player that everyone lionises, off the ball he went great and he couldn't play with his back to goal. And that if we didn't play on the shoulder, then he would play with 10 men.
This is mad slander, man.
That's the thing about this podcast. It's all about opinions. But RM, I stand by my point that I agree that Alexis Sanchez was a prolific goal scorer for one season with us, and he gave us some fantastic memories in the FA Cup. You know, the FA Cup final against Chelsea, obviously. The handball goal. The handball goal, but it wasn't handball. But it wasn't handball. And, of course, that goal against Aston Villa. No doubt about it.
Many screens, man.
Rob Perez did score a cup final in 2003 in the first indoor cup final in Cardiff. Robert Perez's pass for Dennis Bergkamp when he scored that goal when he left. It was Robert Perez's assist for Dennis Bergkamp when Dennis Bergkamp did a base. I don't know what he did, but all I know. Yes, I am RM. RM, you're right. We agree on something. On something.
Football's crazy, man.
RM, we agree on something. But yeah, but Alexis Sanchez, Robert Perez, I don't know what he did to Nikos Dabisas. But all I know is that Nikos Dabisas, I don't know how he didn't go in hospital for a torn hamstring or a torn groin.
Oh, painful.
Yes. But in the 07-08 season, that player that RM's talking about was unplayable.
It's a shame how it ended for him, man. He's a baller. We don't even get them kind of strikers anymore. Like, it's all fun and games with others.
Well, there's another player, I'm not going to mention it. 19 98-99 season, young lad from Paris, influenced by his brothers. He is better than the player we're talking about. On that day, that guy, if he stayed with us, can you imagine him and Henry together? Can you imagine him and Thierry Henry together?
Yeah, but would we have had Henry if it all worked out for the guy you're referring to? Would we ever know Thierry?
But that guy should have been one of the best players in the world. When he was on it, his first touch was immaculate. He had great pace, and he was. You know what? He was very accurate. That shot was like an arrow into the corner of the net.
Had it all, man. He just didn't have what you need here, and the very fact that he still had a good career. He didn't hit his potential, but he was still at good clubs doing things. It's testament to him. Like, I always think he was like the Henry, like V1, like or better yet, Henry was an Elka 2.0 per se when we signed him. Like it or not, Van Persie had the best peak of the Emirates era. Fair enough. I don't know. I think Aaron. Where's Aaron's comment? Because Aaron said something. Big him up. Make sure you're following Aaron.
No, it says Francesc Fabregas is the best player in the Emirates era. Let me tell you something about Francesc Fabregas. Francesc Fabregas changed the way we played. Maybe for the better, maybe not for the better. But Francesc Fabregas,
I think Aaron might be right.
He's probably one of the most creative players, best creative footballers I've ever seen. It's such a shame that.
Could you argue Ozil? I know it sounds mad.
Fabregas was a better player than Mesut Ozil.
I don't know. I think they levels.
I hate some Francesc Fabregas.
I don't, unpopular opinion. I don't.
Yeah, but Francesc Fabregas treated Arsenal like a used towel.
Yeah, but we knew he was a cunt. Look how he played. He was trying to do anything to win against Barca. He never cried. He always made it known, I want to go Barca. Yeah. He had that, not mean streak, but he was kind of down to do anything to win. And then he went Chelsea. And I don't blame him for going Chelsea because you ended up winning the Prem. And if Wenger is not buying you back, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, but the thing is that if only he told the truth. Because if he told the truth, he probably got away of that good story that you just told. The fact is that Francesc Fabregas, when he was at Barcelona, was visited by Jose Mourinho, the then Chelsea manager. And Jose Mourinho, the then Chelsea manager, tapped up Francesc Fabregas and said, "I'm come back to London, but to play for Chelsea." Francesc Fabregas agreed to move to Chelsea. So by the time it would have been irrelevant.
And we obviously tried to get involved.
Even if we tried to get him, we wouldn't have got him anyway, because Francesc Fabregas wanted to play for Chelsea. And he made the right decision. But why can't Francesc Fabregas tell the Arsenal public what really happened? Because it's not, I haven't made this up. Jose Mourinho and Francesc Fabregas are one of the ones who confirmed that Jose Mourinho visited him in Barcelona. So why can't he just tell the truth? Why is he blaming the club and saying it was our fault? I really wanted to come, but they had Cafola and Mesut Ozil. Excuses. Don't get me wrong, Francesc Fabregas and Diego Costa were one of the reasons why Chelsea won the league that year.
Yeah. Says you get the ball, fine Costa, they're gone.
Yeah.
Like,
I was at the game of Stamford Bridge when Francesc Fabregas put that through ball and Costa just lobbed a keeper. In fact, there's a picture in one of the newspapers. It's actually online where Francesc Fabregas took a corner. He came towards the Arsenal fans. And there's this big guy with strong arms and veins coming out of his arms, giving him the bird. It was me. I'm not going to lie. If you go online and get Francesc and you look for it, you'll see me with my fist up. It says Francesc Fabregas giving him all sorts of abuse.
Corner versus Arsenal. Fabregas corner versus Arsenal. Let me see if I can find this.
RM, he was already tapped up by Jose Mourinho in Barcelona, so that wouldn't have made a difference. But Francesc Fabregas won't admit it. There's nothing wrong with being tapped up. Chelsea were one of the best teams in England, in Europe at that time. So it's not
What if he let it be known? No, that one.
It doesn't mean anything. Who cares? He doesn't know Arsenal anything. He had a fantastic career at Arsenal. All right, he only won one trophy, and he always went around Barcelona. Not one Arsenal fan begrudged him wanting him to go to Barcelona. I don't think any Arsenal fans begrudged him going to Chelsea, but it's how you do it. It's how you leave the club. Don't treat the club like a used towel.
That ain't good.
And the wet one as well.
Well, he always there being. Oh, hey, wait, is that you? I don't know. What shirt was you wearing that day?
I was wearing you know, like the
last day of the Emirates. I mean, the last day, the last season at Highbury shirt.
Yeah, I was wearing the burgundy shirt.
I see you still.
I was wearing the burgundy shirt.
I don't think everyone will.
And there's a picture of me when Arsenal lost 6-0. Arsene Wenger's a 1,000th game. I'm in the paper. I'm in the picture as well.
You've seen some trauma, man. Live
on. And I was wearing a blue hoodie. Believe it or not, I was in a blue hoodie. And yeah, there's a picture of it. And my wife actually phoned me and went, "Oh, well, we just seen you in the papers." Yeah, so Chelsea away has been very traumatic for me.
Oh, all right, Chelsea away. And that's one thing I'll give Arteta. We're competitive against the top 6 again, man, because it used to, I remember Arsenal fans, young and old, we'd look at when the fixture calendar list comes out, we'll immediately just write off, apart from Spurs, but write off all the big games, just write it all off. It was Anfield, right, still to a degree, write off. Liverpool, write off. Old Trafford, write off. I'll give them that. But we need to get over the line.
The problem is that, as we found with a lot of teams, is that it's the teams in the top 6, bottom 6 bottom 10 that you got to beat, because a lot of them have got good, with the exception of the garbage that came up this year, and I'll just say garbage. I mean, Leicester garbage, Southampton garbage, Ipswich is pathetic. I was there last week, just pathetic. Apart from that, there's only really about 17 teams in this division. All of them have got reasonably good players, and you have to work your nuts off to win games. You can't just beat the top 6. You've got to beat the other 11 teams.
The Bournemouths, the Brightons, the Brentfords, these Newcastles, they're part of it now. They're the games that are difficult.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We haven't been able to do that. You look at in fact, let's face it, we lost to Bournemouth, Newcastle, a fantastic team, by the way.
And West Ham, and they've been shit this season as well.
Yeah. This is West Ham we beat 5-2 a couple of months before in their own ground. You know, this is the West Ham team that last season beat us in the League Cup and beat us at home on Boxing Day. Well, it was meant to be on Boxing Day, but it was a couple of days.
And Newcastle's become our bogey team now. They got a number.
Well, yeah, because simple reasons, they defend better than us and they got better strikers than us. But we're a better team. But they do the disciplines better than us. They know we don't know how to break them down. And
that seems to be the same case with a lot of teams, man. You keep your shape, you've got half a chance. Unfortunately, that seems to be our kryptonite. Yeah, but why we're better in the champs.
That's why Arsenal are going to need like a Mendy. If we get, because you mentioned about Thomas Partey's new deal. I think Thomas Partey should get a new deal, because
I agree. I don't think any Arsenal fan is disagreeing. But if he gets injured, we'll revisit.
Don't get me wrong. When he's playing like this, you have to use him. If there's obviously you don't want a player to sort of be battered and overused, but if there's one player that you need to batter and overuse because he's that good, it's him. I don't think.
But do you sign a starter then, Kenny? Because I think Partey is one of those weird players in that.
He has to start.
Play player.
No, he has to start because
but if you get Zubimendi, is he going to be the bench boy? Because I don't think you can have Partey hot. Like he starts 5 games, you Partey, you need a rest, he goes out. I don't think he's plug and play per se.
If we give Partey a new deal, I don't think we'll sign Zubimendi.
I don't even want to hear that, because we need a midfielder. Like Jorginho's going, we need one anyways.
I know we need a midfielder, but we're talking more in a creative point of view. We probably need. We're scared to say that we probably, looking at Martin Odegaard's performances, look at the fact that he hasn't been his best. He hasn't created a lot of chances, but he's been a lot on the ball a lot. We could say we're looking an upgrade on him. But in terms of Thomas Partey, Thomas Partey's performances have been fantastic. And, Declan Rice is sort of he's like the Milky Bar kid now, isn't he? He's like the Cheryl Cole of Arsenal Football Club. Cheryl Cole when she was on X factors and the nation's
all the
sweet
range.
spot. Well, Declan Rice is like our Cheryl Cole, isn't he? So in terms of like Declan Rice, he plays his best football with Thomas Partey alongside him.
But then that's what I mean, because if any we all spoke about we need depth, but if any season summed up why you need an option or options is this year, because right now Partey's the guy. If Partey gets injured, there's none of the Jorginho carrot because he's leaving. We're back to square one. I mean, people can talk about Wanyeri in the 10, Odegaard in the 8, Lewis Skelly. We haven't seen these things.
Isn't it, bro? It's risk and reward, because the fact is that the buzzwords and the conversations, and it's not just on social media, it's amongst Arsenal fans who go to home and away. It's the Arsenal fan that you work with in your office. It's the Arsenal fan that's your neighbour in the Tottenham area that you live in. But the Arsenal.
There's a few of us, to be fair.
The buzzword is we need a striker, and
that's all fun and games. But we need bare things.
We definitely need, like, the left-hand side needs a bit of a tweak. We don't know if Miles Lewis Skelly is going to be the answer. So far, so good, though. So far, so good. I would say so far, so good.
And long may
is he going to stay at the left back? We don't know that. Well, if not, we definitely going to need a left back anyway. We're going to need a left-sided player, which means selling Martinelli is good business. And then obviously in midfield,
we can't sell Nelly, man.
Yeah, but the fact is that you're going on his performances in the last few weeks, but you're not going over what he's done over the
last 2 years have been horrible for Nelly.
Exactly. Really. So the fact is that the fact is that he hasn't been consistent. He hasn't been beating his right back, and it's
pushing the shift defensively, though.
Yeah, but you put a shift defensively, but you only notice that when the player's not playing well.
Yeah. You get into scary territory when you say that.
With Martin, we're looking at, but at least he's the first press. You know what I mean?
It's dark, yeah. We are really, really clutching at straws where it comes to that. I think you have to keep Partey. I think centre mids. I actually think centre mid and up front, they're my two major priorities. Give or take, I do think you need a left wing option. Midfield's the engine room. Anything happens to Partey if he gets injured, which this season currently, God forbid it goes different. But this season currently, you say 2022, 23, the Xhaka year. Apart from that, when have you seen Partey ever fit? Because before that, it was you play amazing, you get injured, you come back, first 2-3 games, you're a bit, and then you get into that sweet spot where he's the Partey that we know. But other than that, crazy, man. It is what it is, people. But yeah, man, we're going to end this here. Kenny's got things to do. He's got boxing later and all those things. Let us know your predictions for the PSG game before we get out of here, man.
PSG game, I think we're going to win 1-0. And I think that might be enough to take us to the final.
I love that. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Second leg in Paris is scary. I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal, to be fair. Clean sheets is a rarity, man.
Definitely.
So we're going to have to see, man. But yeah, man, Kenny, as usual, man, big up for doing this. Smash the like button. Big up Kenny's best friend, RM. Out.
And RM, I've got a new rival in RM.
The first one you didn't call a pork chop, to be fair.
No, because simple reason he made some good footballing points that I didn't agree with, but he came up with bullet points for his reasoning. And that's what we try and do here, man. But yeah, man, we're going to let Kenny get out of here. Smash the like button. Peace, people.